share there. So this leaves me to introduce our absolutely wonderful event chairs who have curated the event and its content. We carefully select experts in the field for each event theme to give their expertise, their networks, and to help shape the sessions. And we've been really honoured to have both Tim and Rajendra as event chairs for this event. We're really grateful to them for their commitment and their enthusiasm during these strange times. They really have been so wonderful and available to us. So without further ado, I will hand over to you, Rajendra.
Thank you, Alice. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to participants from 24 countries. It's exciting, for weeks of preparations and, the discussions we had. It's culminated into a wonderful event. Unbelievable. I think I'm particularly thankful to the Royal Academy of Engineering, the Academy of Medical Sciences, the British Academy, and the Royal Society, and the Global Challenges Research Fund on behalf of the UK government for hosting this very important symposium on resilient resource use. It would be incomplete if I start without thanking Seema, Amy, and Alice for the wonderful preparations that leads to seamless conduct of this important symposium. I had a chance to go through all the videos that have been posted here. I have interacted with every participant, seeing your 1-minute introduction. It is so exciting to be a part of this very interesting symposium. Next, please. So before we get into why resilient resource use, I think we all need to understand this concept of the Earth Overshoot Day. This marks a date when the humanity's demand for ecological resources and services each year exceed what Earth can regenerate in that year. So if you look at this slide, it gives us a very interesting perspective. So there are countries that, just complete in the second month, mid-second month, March, they are done with the annual resources that the planet generates for them particularly. If we look at this year for the entire planet, the Earth Overshoot Day was over on 22nd August. Now, if this is the way we are consuming the resources meant for us, we know where we are headed. And I think in this context, resilient resource use gives us not only the path, but also the pathway to save this planet. Next, please. When I look at the way we have behaved, our longevity has increased. The way the humans live, they live longer, but the Earth's livability is decreasing with that. So what effectively it means that the quality of life is the biggest collateral damage, which will finally become an existential threat to humanity. This is something we need to stop. Next, please. So there are two challenges we have. One is that we have a huge population. And more important than that is our uncontrolled usage of the resources. I have at times been in a position to draft policies, and I always said that we have enough resources available for us, but we are merely custodians. We have a fiduciary responsibility. We have to ensure that the way we use them should put this planet better than what we inherited. Unfortunately, we are not doing that. We need to behave like a responsible generation. That is what is the call of the day. Next, please. Next, please. So there are paradigm shifts that we need. I was going through the videos, posted in this platform, and, very interesting point that came up was that we have just 10 years to course correct. If we look at the paradigm shift, we need to reimagine a new world and probably re-engineer. Next, please. So it's not about thriving, it's about surviving. That's the kind of shift that we need. Next, please. So we all talk about growth. So we want to grow, whether it is GDP or something, we need to keep growing. But we also need to look at what is the impact of that growth. So we need to move the needle from just growth to impact. Next. We also need to relook at so-called economic growth. So we all today look at GDP as a measure. So if we keep culling the trees and selling the timber, it is definitely growth because there is an exchange, there is a transaction. Is it really development? We need to move the needle from economic growth to economic development, which is a much broader index, which looks at a whole lot of things, and resilient resource use would actually become a very important component and a matrix for that. Next, please. So on one side, we have sustainable development, but without sustainable consumption, there would not be sustainable development. Next, please. We need to list our priorities, which I'm sure, if you look at these participants, they have wonderfully brought out in the introductions, even in the videos that are posted under all three heads of economic, human, and natural resources. Priorities are easily to figure out. We also need to look at what actions are we taking. Next, please. So collaboration is the overarching theme, but what we actually need to do is co-create it. Next, please. We all know, and this is something all of us in all our countries have faced, that it is the political science, it's the politics that decides, that drives the decisions for a nation, for the planet, whereas actually it should be just science driving the decisions, and that's the needle we need to move. Next, please. Free markets have brought us where we are today. Are they fair markets? Is this the model we are going to follow in the new world? We need to think about it. Next, please. So world as a market is something that we are looking at. And, every 2-3 decades, we change our approach. Globalization, and all that. The Oriental philosophy has been world as a family. That's what, thousands of years ago in the scriptures, Indian wrote world as a family. When we look at world as a family, we talk about welfare. When we look at world as a market, we talk about competition and growth. We need to move the needle now. Next, please. There are two ways to look at the entire problem. Either it's a solutions approach. So we look at one solution, we look at finding a solution to a problem that exists. Other ways to look at an ecosystem, the entire world as a system, and try to find out what do we need to do. That's the approach we need, the systems approach. Next, please. Systems are easy to change. I was going through all the lectures and deliberations. One can pass a government order and a government system changes, but without a mindset change, system won't deliver. We need the mindset change, and that is what we need to sensitize for the resilient resource use. Next, please. We have to be responsive. We have to be responsible. There is a seed grant in the symposium, about bright ideas, where we ideate, we fund, we implement, and we impact. It's a complete cycle. That's the beauty of this entire symposium, that we can actually not just ideate, we can create an impact on the resilient resource use. That's phenomenal. Next, please. The three stakeholders that need to engage, this is broad, is the policymakers, academia, and industry. Science should be driving the society. Next, please. So no problem if we cannot change, if we don't want to turn the needle back in time, don't worry. Let's find 7-8 new planets where we can shift our 7.8 billion population. But can we do that really? I think the answer is a clear no. In the near foreseeable future, we will not be able to do that. So we will need to go back and turn the clock. Next, please. So it's a world which is divided by politics should be united by development. A symposium like this can help us understand better that our future years will be much shorter than our history, which is billions of years. If we continue to behave this way, if the Arctic ice continues to melt, if the entire ecosystem, we exhaust our resources in 2 and 3 months into the year for the entire year, it's a call to action. We have to be, looking back, pause and say, hey, look, this is not a business as usual. We need to change. Next, please. So it brings us to the point where we say that it is not just for us. For this generation, I would say what I said 9 years ago in the UN, main hall in a symposium, that for this generation, we have missed the bus. We are already late. It is for the next generation, our children, for the safety of them, for their future. Resilient resource use should be our intergenerational goal. That's how we will make sure that this planet is livable. This is better. And I still believe we are a very responsible race as humanity, and we will definitely find out a solution for that. Next, please, and thank you. Over to my co-chair, Tim.
Thanks, Rajendra. A warm welcome to everybody from both of us. Even if we don't achieve the world as a family in this meeting, hopefully the meeting becomes a bit of a family of new collaborations. So my particular background is in the climate and in what we call the Earth system science. And I want to start with the idea here that, as Rajendra's highlighted, we were passing some critical tipping points in what I call the Earth system, our home. And these are mostly bad ones. So my particular